Welcome. Happy Easter. If you will join me in an opening treatment, I'll do this in the first person. I invite you to take it as well in the first person. There's only one power, one infinite intelligence, one universal presence, and it is here now in its fullness and its completeness. It is unfolding, unveiling itself as each of us, and is doing so with great joy, great newness, and great freedom. We move into this time together with the idea and with the knowing that it is the beginning of something good for each of us. We do this with joy and ease and freedom. This is our truth. We let it be, and so it is. So happy Easter! Happy Easter! Happy Mithra Day. You don't even know that one, right? Huh? That one. What else? Happy solstice. Balance, not solstice, the other one. Equinox. Happy equinox. Happy Resurrection Day. I got greeted with that at the gas station yesterday a couple of times by someone. Hope you have a happy Resurrection Day tomorrow. I thought, yeah, I want to be resurrected tomorrow. That works. So whatever day you're celebrating today, whatever you're celebrating this weekend, and there are many things being celebrated this weekend, I trust and wish you the very best and the most joyful opportunity and possibility. We are a wonderful center here that is all about celebration. We're all about celebrating life. Sometimes that celebration is lively and sometimes it's very quiet. But either way, what we're doing is celebrating the truth that's within each of us. There's a power greater than anything we have yet experienced, seen, or known, and that we have the freedom and the power to know it and to live it and to experience it. Whoever you are, wherever you've come from, wherever you're going, you are welcome and celebrated here. We make no judgments about that, except that we recognize each of you and each of us as expressions of the divine, expressions of something good and great, and the opportunity for that to come forward and to come forth. We are a center of spiritual truth and teaching. We are not a religion. We are a spiritual teaching. And we are a place where you can come and get a better idea of yourself, a better idea of the world, and a better idea of how to live. So I'm really glad you chose to be with us this morning for that purpose and to do that. Because ultimately and finally, I can't let Sunday go by without saying this much. We don't have rituals, but this is a ritual. That such is the nature of life, that all it asks, the only thing it wants, is the opportunity to show up. You're that opportunity, and so am I, so it is. So it is. That is a truth. So I invite you now to, as we go into today, we have some wonderful music, we have some great ideas, we're going to do some spiritual mind treatment, some positive affirmative prayer, and then we're going to do some talking and storytelling. So as we go into this today, I invite you to do so with an open mind, an open heart, and awareness and willingness to know and see and experience something new, something different. The sun came out. We're out of the rains and the clouds of the last few days. So I invite you to enjoy it, to celebrate it today, this morning. To do that, and to take us to our next part of this, one of our practitioners, a practitioner is someone who's trained in affirmative prayer, who's trained in guiding and supporting each of us, and themselves and others, in how to use this prayer to move forward and to move to a greater place. And in just a moment, Judy Ailey will come and lead us in our spiritual mind treatment. However, before that, thank you, we will look at the affirmation of truth. This is what we teach. This is what we do. And thank you for loving and forgiving me. Let us join together in our declaration of principle. You find it in your program. I believe in God, one absolute power, and first cause to all things. I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates out of a desire to express love. I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience. I believe in the unity of all life, and the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the givingness of God to all. And so it is. Thank you, and have a seat. Go right ahead.
that it? Oh, good morning. It's great to see everyone here. You're in the right place. This is all the perfect people. In my practice, in my daily study of the science of mind and my daily meditation and spiritual mind treatment, I have been continuing to track the results of my treatments, the results of my affirmative prayers for myself and for other people. So today I wanted to talk about my sister. She had really been experiencing some difficulty with hip pain, like her hip. She was having trouble walking much distance at all. She could walk, but, she wore out pretty fast. She's someone who really likes hiking and walking. Anyway, she went to her medical doctor, and he sent her for an x-ray, and then he sent her to physical therapy. Nothing outstanding showed up on the x-ray, maybe a little arthritis, but they say at her age that's pretty normal. But anyway, she did all the exercises, the recommended treatments, but nothing seemed to be working. We talked on the phone and she told me the whole story. And I said, well, do you want me to do some affirmative prayer for you? And, she sort of, knows about this teaching. She's a spiritual person. Her beliefs are a little bit different than ours, but that's okay. She's open to prayer. She was fairly frustrated with her lack of response to the physical therapy and the treatment. So here's the treatment that I did specifically for her. I did treatment for complete and total healing of her hip, that she would be able to move with ease and comfort, and that whatever she needed to know or whatever treatment she needed, whatever it was, that it would be revealed to her in some way. That this perfect loving power for good only wants the best for her and for all of us. And that includes ease of movement and bodies that function perfectly in every way. So that was basically my treatment. So this went on for about a month. Every time I spoke with her, she was still struggling with the hip. And she finally said to me that she told the doctor that she didn't think the physical therapy was working and she was going to stop. So she stopped. And she said the only other thing that she kept thinking about trying was a change in her eating habits. And she explained to me that this idea kept coming up to her in her mind. And my sister has a big sweet tooth, so she decided to get off of refined sugar. She figured if it would help somehow this situation, great, but if it didn't, it would still be a positive for her to get it under control. And then after about a week or so of the change in her diet, her hip stopped hurting. She was able to walk around and move without any hip pain. So, Spirit does its thing in unusual ways. So I'm tracking this change in my sister's hip pain as a demonstration to treatment. I just spoke with her several days ago to check on how things were going, and she said that things are still great. She's able to move around. It's not inflamed. It's all good. Treatment, affirmative prayer really does work. I don't know why we keep being so amazed at this, but we are. We're amazed. But, we are filled with and are alive with this immense power and presence that really can do all things through us. So that's my story of treatment and how it works for today. And I'm going to read you a little piece of the Science of Mind textbook. And I believe this was the reading for yesterday, because there's a group of us that are reading the textbook a little bit each day. There's a flyer out there that tells you what the reading is per day. And this is in a section called The Purpose of Treatment. And here it is. Mental or spiritual treatment should bring into actual manifestation the health and happiness which are mankind's, or all of us, right, normal and divine heritage. Such healing includes the emancipation of the mind from every form of bondage through a new concept of God, which causes the heart to beat with joy and gladness. This healing power is a consciousness of the unity of all life and the spiritual nature of all being. Man's life is rooted in the universal and the eternal, which life is none other than the life of God. The healing process, so far as it may be termed a process, is becoming conscious of this eternal truth, that unity of life and spiritual nature. Treatment should incorporate a conscious recognition that health has always been ours. Abundance has always been ours. Happiness and peace have always been ours. They're ours now, for they are the very essence and truth of our being. So, with that, I want to lead us now in a spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. So I hope that you will accept this for yourself in the first person. I'm going to do this treatment in the first person, so please accept it for yourself. So just take a moment and allow yourself to relax into your space where you are right now. Maybe take a couple of nice, slow, deep breaths. And just be aware that and know that this spiritual presence, this life, this love, this intelligence, this healing power and presence is everywhere. It is expressing through everything we see in the world, all around us. It's expressing through each person, through every animate object and every inanimate object. It is the very vibrancy of life itself. This power is a presence of life, of endless creativity, of joy, of love, of peace, of perfect balance and harmony throughout everything in the world. And I know in the very heart of my being that this is the truth of who I am. I know that my essence is a pattern of this perfection of vibrant health, of happiness, of love, of joy, of peace, of endless new ideas and creativity, that this mind of God is my mind, that this heart of love of God is my heart of love, that I bring peace and ease and balance and harmony into every interaction that I have, into every moment of my life. So this is true. This is absolutely the essence of who I am. As I look around the world and as I see things that are different than this, that appear to be other than this, that appear to be doubt, limitation, lack, fear, struggle, pain, those just simply are not the truth of me. It's not the truth of this loving presence expressing as me, as life, as love. I know that I am never separated from this divine spirit, and that within me is the guidance that I need. I know that I'm in the right place at the right time, hearing the right words, speaking the right words as I am connected at the heart level to others in my life, to all of my life, to all of life. I know that this life, that this world around me it's movable. It is a movable feast, really, that through my thought, through my ideas, that I transform the appearance of the world into match up to the heart, to the truth, to the pattern of wholeness that I am. So it is with a grateful heart that I am here today, that I am here to hear words of truth, that I am here to hear this message on this glorious, beautiful, beautiful Easter Sunday, beautiful Passover weekend. So I just open my heart, I open my mind, I open my understanding to embrace and to allow Spirit to express through me in greater and greater ways. It is with great thanksgiving that I release these words, knowing that they are so, and so it is.
So it is. Lots to talk about today. So about this time of year, a number of years ago, I won't name exactly how many because I don't want to try to do the math, but I found myself at the Grand Canyon in the midst of a sabbatical that I was taking. I had finished at my church in Florida and decided that I needed some time, just me and Spirit, to wander around the country. So I did. I started out with a few months in mind, or 2 months in mind, ended up 9 months. And about halfway through that time, it was April, and I was at the Grand Canyon because that's where my next place to go was. As I traveled, about every 3 or 4 weeks, I did a retreat or a workshop somewhere. And that paid the bills and kept me going, and it was great. And I was having a wonderful time. I'd get up in the morning and say, okay, God, where are we going today? North, south, east, or west, or we stay put? A lot of days I stayed put. I stayed in campgrounds. I wintered outdoors, which was a real interesting way to live in the Midwest, or in the West, not really the Midwest, out around Colorado and that area. And was having a marvelous time. And learning and facing my fears and going through a whole lot of growth at that point. Well, I got to the Grand Canyon and I checked in and I got my campground because the plan was I would spend the night there and then I would take my camping gear and hike for the next week down into the canyon and spend that time just me walking, doing a lot of solitude and that sort of thing. Got my campground, got over and got my tent set up, went over to the kiosk to pick up my tag so I could hike, because you have to wear a tag on you. You know, they have to keep up with who's in the canyon, who's not. And I'm handing my debit card, and we're going to check me in. And they handed it back to me after I'd filled out all the paperwork and said, your card bounced. I'm like, how's that possible? I don't have any cash on me at that moment, and my card bounced. So after a good deal more conversation and me explaining to them that that's not possible and that's where all my money was and there shouldn't be any big deal going on, they continued to hold to their line that it had bounced. So I wandered away from there thinking, oh my gosh, I don't even have money for gas to get to the next town, and I don't have the money to stay here another day. And what am I going to do? And I walked around stunned, literally stunned. So I went to the phone booth because at that time in the Grand Canyon they didn't have cell phone coverage, and I didn't have a quarter. So I bummed a quarter from the front desk with the promise of paying it back. I made a call to the person who was handling my money, which was my manager that was doing all of the handling of the money at the various retreats and things and putting it in the bank and taking care of all of that. And the phone had been disconnected. So I borrowed another quarter. And I called my wonderful daughter who's sitting here and said, would you please put somebody in my account? I can't even go anywhere. So she did. Or she said she was going to. At that time, again, things didn't happen as fast as they do now, so it was going to take a little time. And there was no one else in line behind me or waiting for the phone booth, so I just used that as my little private prayer chamber and closed the door and sat there for a while and contemplated my situation. What I had, what I didn't have, what the heck was I going to do next? How in the world, with all of my careful planning and with all of the work I had done, and the really good work, I had just done a workshop retreat about 2 weeks before that, which had netted a lot of money, and doing it all right. Everything according to plan. But nothing was according to plan. I couldn't buy lunch. But I had lunch in my camping gear, so I knew I wouldn't starve, obviously. Never have done that. What am I going to do? Ever found yourself in a situation like that, where you've done all the things the way you thought it should be done, and you've walked through life, and you've taken the right steps, and you've done what you were told was good, and you've done what you felt inner guidance was leading you and where it was taking you, only to discover at some point it all seems to just run into a brick wall or a dark corner or no place to go. That's what this weekend is really all about. This weekend is not just about Easter Sunday or the Sunday when everything is bright and light like it is today and like the beautiful of everything coming out. But Easter Sunday only makes sense with Good Friday. Easter Sunday and every Good Friday has to have an Easter Sunday. You can't have one without the other, to some extent. Now, hopefully, as we grow in spirit and in life, our Easter Sundays don't require nearly such dark Good Fridays as they may have at times in the past. But you get what I mean? What I'm saying here is that this Sundays, this day of celebration, this day of brand newness, when things open up and often come as a surprise, come because we have also been into the darkness. We've walked through a path similar to what Easter Sunday and Resurrection Weekend and the story of Jesus and the story of Mithra and the story of Esther and all of those people continue to bring forward. It's fascinating to me that this story that we are celebrating this weekend, as mostly for most people in our culture, related to the story of Jesus and the story of his death, burial, and resurrection. But it's interesting that it's done on the time of the equinox, on the time when in this time of year, for at least 1,000 years prior to that, people in certain cultures were celebrating Esther, who was a goddess, and her son would be sacrificed and put on a fence post in the field. This was the myth, the story, to bleed into the ground and bring life to the crops, to bring spring, to bring a new year. It was a mythic story about the evolution and the revolution of time and how all apparent death has a life after it, how winter always leads to spring, how the appearance of things falling apart comes back. The god Mithra, a Roman god, had a son who was half bull, kind of a minotaur, half bull, half human. And at this time of year, every year, he would be sent into the catacombs of hell. And as he would go, he would take all of the sins of the people with him. And he would suffer in hell for 3 days and be resurrected on the third. See, this is an old story. It's an old story, and it's a story that shows up in various cultures about various people. Now, that does not diminish the truth of any of them. What it does is it says each of these stories is pointing to a greater truth that shows up and keeps showing up, and we can't keep it quiet. Whether it shows up in the mythic history, in Christianity, in current psychological stories, or in the story of Jesus of Nazareth. The story keeps coming back. You can't stay in Good Friday. You're going to have an Easter if you let yourself, if you're willing to go there. So what do we learn from this? What can we learn from this? One of the things we learn from it is that the real depth and truth around us is not about the factual surface level of any idea or story. It doesn't matter whether Jesus Christ was the first to go through this system and process. It doesn't matter if it ever really happened physically in the world. You know that George Washington never chopped down a cherry tree and then went and told his dad he did it? Yet it's a core story of our culture here in the United States about truth and value, that we honor the truth above almost anything else. Doesn't make the story any less true or real. Doesn't matter that it never happened. It's a part of who we are and a part of what this culture is about. The same thing is true of these stories. The same thing is true of Easter. The same thing is true of Resurrection Sunday. These are core ideas that are true because, and they're great stories because they are true for human experience, and they are true for spiritual experience, and they are true for life, presenting itself and bringing itself forward. And they are rich. So these stories tell us that it's not just about the surface, there's something below that we need to pay attention to. And look at what they did. Probably the Jesus story is the most familiar, so I'll follow that one. After having taught and done all these things he was doing, he's sticking to the truth that he taught and do and believe that Jesus taught, truth that had not ever quite been talked about the same way. That part is new and different. The story was much the same, what happened to him and who he was and how he went through life, but what he taught was new and different. It was many, many things gleaned from ancient Hebrew, from other cultures, but brought together in a brand new way. And what he brought together was the idea that individual people were of great value. That when we talked about salvation and resurrection and life after death, it wasn't just about the tribe being saved and continuing on as a culture, or about people living on only in the memories of those who followed them. It was about the individual value of each person being equal and being worthwhile and being focused and paid attention to. It was a new way to think about individual people. And it upset the system. Really upset the system. Folks who were not ready for that were not happy about it. But he stuck to his truth. He kept teaching, and he reached a point in his truth where he knew what was coming. He knew he could not keep doing this the same way and speaking his truth without paying some consequences. And we have the great story in the garden where he's in the garden and he's expecting to be arrested at any moment. So he goes in and he's praying. And one of the translations says sweating blood. I've only sweat blood a few times, but I've had a few experiences in my life where it felt like I was sweating blood, where my life seemed to be in danger, or something was going on that seemed life-threatening, even whether it was or wasn't. But it was that kind of, it's a metaphor, it was that kind of intensity. And the question in his mind was, do I stick to my truth or not? That's the hard one. We all have had moments where our integrity is in question, and we have to ask the question, do I stick to my truth or not? Especially if we know that our integrity is going to cost us, or appear to cost us. He did. He got kind of irritated with his followers who said, can't you just stay awake with me for an hour? Because every time you look around, they'd gone to sleep. Just, come on. Which my message for me in that is, Bob, does this matter enough to you to stay awake for an hour and think about it? And by stay awake, I mean stay present, stay alive, stay with it. So when a situation comes up that I really need to sort out and work out, am I willing to stay with that situation, think it through, pray it through, noodle it through in my brain? Ask for whatever for an hour. Can I stay with it for an hour? Then finally, the soldiers come to get him. The disciples step in, and Peter chops off the ear of one of the soldiers to protect. And Jesus says, no. And he heals it and puts the ear back on. Don't resist that which would resist you, is the message. Don't fight back. His message was one of, this is my truth, I stand in it, and I'm against nothing. Dr. Holmes says in the Science Mind textbook, give me, or actually it's in one of his talks, but parts of it are in the textbook, give me 1,000 people who are for something and against nothing, and we will change the world. That's what he's talking about. This is a day that's about being for and not against. That against will fall away if you stay focused on what you're for. Stay focused on what you're about and what you want to accomplish and what you want to do and who you are. And of course, you know the story. They take him off to the trial, and then they crucify him on Friday, Good Friday, it's called. And on the cross, he says some interesting things. One of the things, I'm not going to go through all of it, one of the interesting things he says is, hey, take care of my mom. Every good boy, take care of my mother. And what that really is about is when the warring energies that happen within the masculine world, when we get all caught up in our strutting and in our fighting and in our demanding my way is better than your way, and all of that can happen with all of that masculine energy, Jesus is saying, and the message, the story is saying, pay attention to the feminine. Because the feminine brings the balance. The feminine will take care of this and take us through. Pay attention to the feminine. And then he says, it's done. It's over. Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. And what he really said there, the real translation of that is not, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what to do. What they're doing. What he really said was, Father, I forgive them. And then it's over. Good Friday comes to an end. See, for us, when you're caught in that corner, when you're in that place in your life where things aren't working, you don't know what in the world to do, you cannot fight your way out of it. What you can do is turn to the truth that you know and come back to it and come back to it and remind yourself and spend time with it, and then forgive anyone who seems to want to take you out of your truth. Forgive anyone who would attack you. Forgive anyone who would take those things away from you without them even knowing you're doing it. I promise you, every day, forgive the driver that pulled out in front of you, to use the simple, mundane thing. Forgive the people that you see in the culture that you think are doing things against you, or the culture itself, or the systems themselves. Whatever you see is going wrong out there. I don't understand. It's not about being against any of us. It is about us turning to that greater power within us. And in the name of that power and the truth of that power, letting go and forgiving whatever appears to be fighting against us. Now that's a big order sometimes. Especially if it's a relative. You know, we all have people in our lives sometimes, or most of us do. Maybe you don't. I do. Who cause trouble, or who show up, or who you think are against you, or who do not support the truth that you're working toward or working for. And then what happens? Everything goes dark. In Atlanta, we have a big storm, and then we spend a day in the rain cleaning it up, and then the sun comes out on the third day. Have you ever noticed that every year at Easter time it turns cold this weekend? The farmers will tell you. You say, how is that possible? When I was a kid, I thought it's because God was sad, and so we got to be cold. Then I learned later that, you know, this holiday is on the first Sunday following the full moon, following the spring equinox. It's a lunar holiday. It's a pagan holiday, folks. And because it's in that same position in our relationship to the moon and the sun and all of these dynamics in our world, we have the same kind of weather. If they had it on a date and it always came up on that date, it wouldn't do that. It would be different. See, there are dynamics at work in our world around us that can be counted on, that are going to come around again and again and again. Cycles that show up. So you get the day of quiet. The day of Saturday, in this case. In our case, originally it wasn't done on the Sunday, it was done on the equinox, but right now we do it on Sunday. And then the best part, right? The surprise. They go to the empty tomb and it's empty, it's gone. What? Now in the earliest versions of the story, that's where it ends. Doesn't go any further. Don't say what happens. Just he's empty and he's gone. Don't know if someone stole the body or what happened. Later stories, later versions fill in all the rest of it about the women at the tomb and about the angels showing up and about Jesus, appearing in an undead form to people behind locked doors, just showing up in spiritual form. But see, the point of that is this. Whatever the death you feel like you may be going through at any time, the death of an idea, the death of a relationship, the death of a health issue, whatever it may appear to be, there is life afterward. Nothing really dies. life really goes on. And it goes on in a whole new, greater form than you had yet imagined. It shows up, it bursts forth, and it's almost always a surprise, and rarely exactly what you thought it would be. It goes boom, and there it is. We do treatment, spiritual mind treatment, and we're praying and we're seeing the new truth. We're going beyond appearances down into that level within us of truth, of greatness, of reality and wholeness. And as we do that, and it becomes alive, and it starts to show up in our lives, it doesn't always show up the way we thought it would. Sometimes we treat for something to be this way, and we get something better. In fact, most of the time we get something better. That's why we try not to get too specific about what we're treating for. We don't want to lock it in or box it in. See, there's a greater idea ready to happen within us always, but it often requires the death or the loss or the releasing of an idea that's not so great or an old idea. It requires us to be ready and willing to step into, to surrender to the idea that there is something within us that knows better than we know, no matter how deep and dark it might appear to be. That there is something in life that knows more than we know, and we surrender to it and are open to hearing and knowing and learning it and see where it's going to come from. And sometimes it comes from the expected place, but more often than not, it's a surprise. I sat a while in that phone booth, and I thought about what I have. I have a car half full of gas. It'll get me halfway to the next town. I have plenty of food for about 2 weeks. I have camping gear. The area around me is surrounded by public lands that you can camp on as long as you're 3 miles off of the highway. I'm surrounded by people. I'm not alone. And even though it was very hot, I could always get on the air-conditioned bus that rides up and down the edge of the canyon and cool off. I thought about what else? What do I have? I have my helper. I have my family that cared about me and was stepping in to help. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what to do. So I surrendered. I surrendered to the idea that I don't know, but something in me knows. There's a power for good within me that knows better than I do, and it is going to make sure that I'm okay. I didn't get this far. Worst case scenario is I call somebody, scrap up the money together, and go back to my daughter's house. The last thing I wanted to do, because I wasn't done with my travels yet. So I sat with that. And I finally thought, well, I don't know what to do, but I know I have a campground, and I can go make my food, and I can get ready to do that. And I can't hike at the canyon, but I'll figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow. I stepped out of the booth, and these 3 guys were standing there, and one of them said, come here. Okay. We were right behind you in line, and we heard your story. So we put you on our hiking pass. So you've got your week hike. And we don't know what else is going on with you financially. We don't really care, but you've got that. And we also heard that you have your camping pass for tonight. We couldn't get one because the campground's full. Could we camp in your campsite with you? Sure, that's a great deal. So we traded. I camped, or they camped with me at the campsite. The next day, these are all 3-season hikers that have been in the canyon many times. I'd never been in the canyon. I was just going along, trying it out. Let's go see what happens. And we get up the next morning. We go down the canyon, and once we got down into it, they said, it's not. I had my little tag. We didn't have to stay together, which is good because they were a lot faster than I was. And about halfway down, we split up, and they went their way, and I went mine. And I spent the next week just wandering in solitude. Had some real challenges. That's another story. We won't go there. But by the end of that time, I came back out with a whole renewed sense of strength and power and ability and trust. And where I came out of the canyon, I had to take that air-conditioned bus, thank goodness, because it was like 100 degrees down there in the daytime and 40 degrees at night, so it was an interesting way to live. But I had to take the air-conditioned bus, and And I just couldn't get off of it. I just kept riding it back and forth because I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't have a campsite. I had my car over in the parking lot, and that was it. And the third time I passed the personnel office, I thought, I could stay here. I walked into the personnel office, I got a job, and I spent the next 3 months helping to run the steakhouse at the Grand Canyon. Now, I lived well. It was a surprise. It was rich. I stayed in the dorm. I got free food. I had enough salary and income that when it was time to go and I was ready to leave, I had it all to do that. It was there. And I had the help from my wonderful daughter to get me through that first week until I got paid. You get it? It was Easter. Easter comes that way if we trust and keep our hearts open, our minds open, and stay true to what we are about and who we are. And you're the only one that knows what that is or who that is. That is your path, you're going, your glory, you're moving forward. So wherever you are today, if you're in Easter Sunday, if you're somewhere in a Good Friday, if you're somewhere on Saturday wondering what the hell's happening next, if you're doing life the way you're doing life, wherever you are in that, know that there's a power within you greater than you are that is you can use, but is also using you to accomplish that which is yours to do, that which is yours to be. And it's not some mystical, magical woo-woo. You don't have to do it the hard way like I did. You can do it the simple way of taking the next idea and following it and trusting it and going with it. But wherever you are, however that lines up, I want to leave you with my favorite quote. I don't know where it came from. But when you come to the end of the light that you've known, when you reach that Good Friday point and you're there and you don't know what's next, and you step out into the darkness, your faith will guarantee either your foot will find solid ground or you'll fly. And that's what you deserve and how you deserve and how you live, because you're wonderful, and so am I. So it is. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So join me if you'd like to, if you will, in a few moments of meditation and treatment, spiritual mind treatment. I take a deep breath and I let go and I settle into here and I allow to bubble into my mind at least one thing that I know is my purpose, my reason for being, my thing that I'm creating and being in the world. It might be the big one, it might be something smaller. Doesn't matter, it's what I am and who I am and what I bring. I take a moment and allow any thoughts I have of anyone or anything that might be opposed to it. Don't celebrate me for who I am. Maybe my own thinking turning against myself. And in the quietness of my own mind, I say, Father, God, loveth, Mother, I forgive them. I forgive me for not knowing what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're saying, what they're being, because this is who I am. And I fully embrace and hold that sense of self, that purpose. And I know there's a power within me that is taking that truth and that sense and that direction and multiplying it and bringing it forward into life in a way that I simply get to go along with and enjoy and watch and participate in. And by action of this treatment, I am willing to let go of anything that does not serve my higher good anymore, of anything that stands in the way in my mind of me standing forward and standing up and living in the freedom, the love, and the joy that is my birthright. And I am grateful to know that there's a power within me that can do that for me and with me and provide me the ideas, the feelings, the opportunities to step forward in the way that is mine to do. I celebrate this Resurrection Day, this Easter Day, this day of new beginning, this day of spring, as I spring forward into my life in a brand new way, in a greater way than I've ever done before. With ease, with joy, with freedom, without stress, without turmoil. I just step forward into greater good, greater life and greater living. I let this be my truth because it is, and in gratitude that I live in this kind of a universe. Gratitude that I now know about this, that I know I am not by myself, that I know I am supported. I know I am always brought into a greater expression of life when I surrender to its possibility. And in so doing, I watch my life unfold in greater ways than ever. This is what I'm about, this is who I am, and this is my truth. In gratitude, I let it be so, and so it is. So it is. Thank you. So as we move into this celebrating who we are and what we're about, we do so with ease, we do so with gratitude. We step into a time now for sharing our prosperity with one another, for making sure that we have a place right here, right now to continue to do this and to invite more and more people to participate in these ideas and this truth as they are so led. So I invite you to join in increasing your prosperity by giving your prosperity, by participating in what we're doing. You'll find it, our affirmation in your program. Please join me as we read it together. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow. And all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. Okay, I have a few announcements, and before I turn you loose for Easter brunch or Easter egg hunts or whatever you're going to do next. First of all, I'd like to just remind you again that we are in a membership drive, and you'll see the forms and the thermometer out front. We're inviting you, if you have not signed up to be a member of our center, but you have been participating, to please do so. Or if you haven't been participating and you want to be a member, please sign up so that we can get our membership list accurate and up to date, and then we can start to build and grow from there. So thank you for that. The information on how to do it and all is out there. I'm not going into that right now. So next Sunday, I will be away. Reverend Angela will be here speaking. I will be away with one of our teens. You met him a few weeks ago if you were here, Jeffrey Rayborn, who is going. I'm taking him. We're going to L.A. to spend the weekend planning the summer camp. And he had such a powerful experience at the winter camp that he was invited at International's expense to go out and to help put this whole thing together for the summer. So it's quite an honor for him, and it's exciting for me to get to go and support and be part of that with him. So I'll be there next weekend with our teen, and Reverend Angela will be here. So be here and support her, and let's know that she's continue to take us down this same wonderful road. Starting in May, I will, on the first Tuesday of May, I'm starting two new things. One is at 10:30 in the morning. They're both daytimes. 10:30 in the morning, we are beginning the part 2 of Unveiling Your Hidden Power, which is the class on Emma Curtis Hopkins. You do not have to, it's not required that you took the first one in order to be in this one. It's just going to be required that you sign up and show up. And it'll be happening at 550 Bishop Avenue, which is over behind Atlantic Station. I have an office over there we use for things like this. So that will be going on there on Tuesday mornings. And then after the class, there will be a break. And then at 1 o'clock, we're having a weekly meditation that is a drop-in. Come participate in a group meditation anytime you like. And there are charges for both of those. All of that's in the information that will be on the website this week. Apologize I don't have it ready in print for you today, but I wanted to tell you about it so we can get the word out as soon as possible. We just got all this worked out. The other good news is coming up, and this is just a general announcement for get ready, or if you have ideas, I'm open. Starting in May, we will have this building Instead of having to scurry out of here by 1 o'clock, we will be able to be here until 2 o'clock at the same price and have our parking. So we're going to begin to offer some after-service kinds of things, some discussion groups, perhaps some classes, some meetings. When we have meetings, we'll be able to do them here. So we'll be able to utilize this building more than we have been, and that's really good news for us as a center growing. So, one of the things that you've asked for is in the meetings that we've had is fellowship time. So we will start doing that. We'll have some refreshments afterwards, and we'll be recruiting many of you to help do that. But that's coming up. So there'll be an opportunity, if you want to stay around and have a cup of coffee and have a conversation with other people. If you don't, we love you. It's okay. Some people love that kind of stuff, and some people can't get out of here fast enough. And I'm happy with you doing whichever one serves you. There is no shoulds and oughts around any of that. You go with what works for you. But I want to make it possible for those who want to stay to be able to do that, to stay for a few minutes. We have lots of opportunities for volunteering coming up, especially with those kinds of activities starting up. We also have volunteer activities out front for ushers and greeters, for people at the tables to help pass along information. We have opportunities to volunteer in our children's program, our youth program we call it, and probably even in the teen program. I'm pointing this way because right now we have a room full of youth down here, and we've got some teens down on the other end. So every week we have these programs available. If you've got family members or know of people who might benefit from it, imagine getting these ideas when you were a child. Imagine getting these ideas when you were young and how different your life might be. This is a place to do that, and this is a place where we're making sure we provide that. That's part of what you're providing every time you contribute to what we're doing here. So I invite you to consider volunteering in those programs, but also to continue supporting them. We also have a Prayer Works that happens every Monday. It's a telephone call-in prayer line that Reverend Angela does, and there's information on how to call, what the numbers are, etc. outside. Many people use it every week. It's been going for a long time, and it'll continue to go. The other thing I want to do is recognize our practitioners. These are the folks who are well trained in this teaching and can not only help guide you, but can also do this spiritual mind treatment prayer work for you in any of those areas where you find yourself up against a wall or even just needing a little boost, a little help. So would those who are present please stand? Yes, thank you. Oh, hey. Good. Nice to have you with us, Reverend Ursula. Thank you. Good. All right, and thank you to all of our volunteers who help and do anything around here. We've got board members, we've got practitioners, we've got people doing all sorts of things in the mornings. And if anyone took our signs home last week, please bring them back. I know you didn't, I'm kidding. But treat with me to know that they appear. They have seemed to have floated off into the ozone somewhere. All right, I think that's it. I thank you for being here and enjoy the rest of your day. It's beautiful out there. So let's read together our closing. So, I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding. I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me, and so it is. Thank you all.